Well, hello everyone. Do you hear me well? Yes, wonderful. Okay, I'm just gonna test that works. Wonderful. Happy to be here. So the title of this presentation is What We Learn When We Ask Our Readers to Choose Their Price, which may sound counterintuitive, but gave us results that were extremely impressive, well, by our standards. So first of all, I'm Marc Gendron. I'm Principal Director of Audiences and Platform for les Coop de l'Information and also publisher for Le Soleil. I've been in the business for 20 years, most of it as a journalist and as a newsroom manager. But since the last 6 years, I switched to digital growth. And actually, I'm head of subscriptions, audience growth, platform development, name it, probably that it's my responsibility. So a little context about our organization. We are a news group which was built with 6 local news outlets. The oldest one is over 130 years old. We were in the print business for most of that story. And in the recent years, we've added also a youth-oriented news outlet and a games site because we were inspired by the New York Times, like everybody. And our news outlets are based in 6 regions of Quebec and Eastern Ontario. And as you might have noticed, these are French-speaking medias, so that's why I have a thick accent. Just to give you another layer of context, we were owned by a lone owner from 2015 to 2019, and that sole owner went into bankruptcy at the end of summer 2019. So we were like one paycheck away from closing at that moment, and what we did is that we bundled together and we decided as employees to become the owners of our organization. And that's when we founded Les Coop de l'Information, which bought back the assets and kept on improving on what we did before. Another layer of context then, we were using at that time our own built CMS, which was a bad idea. But still, what required it was every time we wanted a new functionality, we had to invest in capital to make sure that something that was available out of the box anywhere else, we could do it also. So we decided to switch to Arc in 2022 and went live with Arc in early 2023, and that's the solution we've been using for the past years. We've launched digital subscriptions at the end of 2020. Before that, all of our content was free on the internet because that was most of the business models at that time were doing. We wanted to monetize content with advertisement, but we quickly realized that we wouldn't be able to sustain our operations if we didn't add a layer of reader revenue. So that's why we've launched digital subscriptions in late 2020. And we've had significant and steady growth in subscription numbers like unique subscribers and subscription revenue since that day. So when we approached our budgeting for 2025, we budgeted an increase in unique subscribers and in subscription revenue, which were bold, but we thought were achievable. But rapidly in early 2025, I'd say around March 2025, we realized that the pace that we were having wouldn't allow us to reach these subscribers and subscription revenue goal. So we just realized that if we were doing the same recipe that was tried and true before, we wouldn't be able to reach these revenues. We also had another another challenge. We wanted to implement a subscription price increase over the following year, and we weren't feeling confident that if we were on that pace and if we kept that status quo, we would be able to implement this subscription price increase without having too much of an issue. So we came up with an idea. Why don't we let users choose their price when they sign up for a new subscription? Before that, our subscription price was pretty steady. We had 3 subscription tiers. The entry level was $9.95 per month, and the top subscription plan was $17.95. That plan included a ads-free experience, and there was a middle plan at $12.95. which added a e-paper edition. And we did like once a year promotion where we had like heavy discount, like subscribe for $3 per month for the first 3 months, subscribe for $1 per month for the first 3 months. But we were afraid that coming up like too often with such promotions would do what we've done best for most of our history, was devaluating the value of our own product. I think that we, over the years, have contributed ourselves as an industry to devaluate the value of what we propose. So that's why we came up with that idea. It was pretty bold, so I had to do some internal convincing, but still we did it. And as soon as I got the buy-in from our CEO at that time, we began working on implementing everything that was requested or needed to do that. So we built the project on 3 pillars. The first one, new features. We wanted to increase the perceived value of our product. So what we added was a daily poll, audio articles, cross-device bookmarking, and I'm trying to read at the same time, which isn't that easy. Increase the perceived, I just said that. So pillar 1, add perceived value. Pillar 2, adding friction, like tightening access to control. At that time, our access model was pretty straightforward. If you were an anonymous user, you had access to 3 free articles per month. If you were a connected user, you had access to 6 free articles per month, as well as content from our columnists. You had to be connected to access that. And if you were a paying subscriber, well, everything was all-inclusive. And 3, a bold promotion, something that would strike the mind of our potential subscribers, and that was the pay what you can offer promotion. We did so by having a dedicated paywall, then a dedicated subscription page, a heavy, and when I say heavy, it was a heavy email marketing campaign with 12 different emails over the course of 5 weeks, all across 6 different brands, which adds a layer of complexity, as well as third-party advertisement remarketing. Okay, so the first pillar, make subscription worth it before asking for people to subscribe. And the objective there was, there was 2 objectives there. First, augment the perceived value of people that we wanted to convince to become subscribers, but also augment the perceived value of actual subscribers that we knew we would later ask to pay more for their actual services. So first thing that we implemented was the daily poll. This is something that we've built fully in-house, thanks to ChatGPT and Cloud Code and all of that. We built the MVP by ourselves, and the idea there is to ask every day a question to our readers about what's happening. Like, it could be general news, something hyper-local, or something more general. And to answer to the question, you absolutely have to have a free user account to be connected. And it had a lot of impact. So nowadays, we have around 10,000 people that answer to these questions day in and day out. There's 1 question per every day, times 6, because most of the questions are different from one market to the other, because we do have these local media differences. The second thing that we implemented was an automated audio version of the articles. And this is something that we added as a perk for 2nd and 3rd tier subscriptions, like the mid and premium subscription plans. Also, to increase perceived value of the higher end plans that we were offering. And then the cross-device bookmarking, which is something that is useful because we do offer websites and applications, and we didn't have a way of bookmarking content. And when we implemented the first version of this bookmarking feature, it was device-bound. So if I bookmarked something on my app, I couldn't access that bookmark on website. So we built what was necessary to make these bookmarks across devices. So that was pillar 1. Pillar 2, create a sense of urgency, make the free tier feel incomplete, or I would say that's where we add a little more friction. The first thing that we implemented was to require users to be full-fledged paying subscribers to access content written by our columnists and editorialists. We felt that these are the most valuable contents that we offer. They're extremely different and unique. This is something that if you want to read or have access to it, you absolutely have to be on our platforms. So we decided to implement this, this layer of content gating. Other thing that we did, we decided to place all of contents which we call archived contents. So it's content that has been published more than 30 days ago, make it exclusive to paying subscribers. So that was a first layer of content access restriction that we've added. Other thing that we did also was to implement a simultaneous device limitation. Before that, the same account could be used on as many devices as you wanted. So if you were a subscriber, you could share your subscriptions with your organization, and you could be 20 people consulting contents at the same time with only one subscriptions. So we added this limitation of 4 devices connected at the same time, and we had a good surprise. It created an increase in number of group subscriptions in the following weeks we did so. First, customer services weren't happy because they received a lot of calls and inquiries, but the end game was we sold group subscriptions to people who took advantage of that limitation before. Other medias who shared the same credentials across their newsroom, they called us to ask if they could have a rebate if they bought bundled subscriptions, and we gladly sold them too. So happy with this unexpected result. And then the third layer, that offer pay what you can. We did so in a period we thought would be fruitful, and we are happy to say that the results were there. So we decided to do this during the municipal elections in Quebec. So it's naturally and traditionally a period where there's a lot of interest for our contents. People come to our platforms because we go in depth in what's happening in their city and in their neighborhood. So we knew that there would be a surge in interest. Second, we created a dedicated paywall on every article. And in the final days of the promotion, which span over 5 weeks, there we added a countdown to say, hey, if you want to take advantage of this offer, you only have like 24 hours left. Then a custom subscription page. That page, we built it with Pool Engage, which is one of the partners we're working with. And in that page, we went away from the traditional, hey, here's the offer, here are the perks, here's what you're gonna get. We wanted to work more on the value proposition. And something that we did is that we used actual user or subscribers' testimonies to put emphasis on it. I think I have a slide on that, so I'm going to get back to it later. And then the 12 emails and over 6 medias to emphasize on the urgency of converting and the exceptionality of that offer. Added also in-app messages in the app and newsletter headers. So we're sending a bunch of newsletters every day, every morning, every evening. We have specialized newsletters, and we've added a call to action in these newsletters. So if you were a subscriber, you don't see that call to action or that promotion. And if you're not a subscriber, you see the call to action. Magic. And then third-party remarketing. So everybody that was in our ecosystem that consulted content during that period, we remarketed them on Google Ads, using Google Ads, most of it, to just repeat the message and try to reach out to these people on third-party platforms. Okay, so that's where I speak about the dedicated subscription page. So from the article paywall, you will route to the dedicated subscription page. There we emphasize on really copy the message that we wanted to leave the user about the value proposition that we had. So one of the messages was your community, your price. So we emphasize on the fact that, hey, you have the right and the power to decide how much you want to spend for the first 3 months of your subscription. We emphasize on our cooperative and employee-owned nature, which is something that we think we didn't do enough in the past. Then we went in with real subscribers' testimonials. A little more context on that. Every time a subscriber signs up or creates a new account, he gets into a 3 months onboarding sequence. Most of it is through email. And one of them, we ask them, why did you convert? What's the reason? What was the trigger? And we go through these testimonies. Some are really interesting, some are ordinary, but there was one which struck with us, and we included it in that paywall page, in that subscription page, and it said, roughly, your cooperative ownership, your employee-owned status gives back its full sense to community journalism, which for us, it was like striking because we didn't really realize it by ourselves, but it emphasized the fact that the money that we make with our operations doesn't serve to like engross a loan owner's retirement plan. We use it to invest in our mission. We use it to pay for our employees who, after that, they are active part of their community. They buy on local shops. Their kids play on the soccer field next to the people who read our story. So this is something that in the future we will use more and more to say, hey, when you're giving us $1, that dollar is going to be reinvested here to create value in your community. Oh yes, strike two over regular price. That's an old tactics, but something that works every time. The countdown, as I said, in the last moments of the promotion, we added a countdown to create that sense of urgency, and it works. Actually, when we added that countdown, we saw like the conversion rates, which were slowly going down over the time of the promotion. There was a surge in conversion at that time. And the minimum amount was shown in small prints. Was there, but still not preponderant. We requested users to at least sign up for $1 per month for the first 3 months. It wasn't a $0, so we were at least getting a minimum of $1 per month for the first 3 months. The email strategy. So, as I said, we sent 12 different emails, times 6 because it all had to be branded to each market. Because for most of our readers, when I speak about les coop de l'information, it doesn't mean a thing. Someone in Trois-Rivières, Québec, is accustomed to read Le Nouvelliste, so for him, Le Nouvelliste is the only brand that he knows. Same thing for Le Quotidien de Saguenay, Le Soleil à Québec, La Voix de l'Est in Grand Bay, where I began my career as a journalist there. So it was important to brand everything, change all of the URLs so it points to the right website, blah, blah, blah. So it requires a lot of work, but it makes a difference in the end. And each message had different themes and different angles and different calls to action because we wanted to emphasize in the value that we were offering, and we wanted to make sure that people were moved by different messages. Some were really focused on the price. Hey, it's wonderful, you can choose your price. And some were more value proposition based because these different triggers can work differently on different people. Oh, that slide has been a little messed up, but I'm going to work on it after. No. So these are the results that we've got. Over the 5 weeks of the promotion, we've had a net increase of 4.2% in total subscribers. Our goal was to get 3.5% increase. Our most ambitious ones were 4.3%, so by reaching 4.2%, we were extremely satisfied, really happy about that. 88% of all the subscribers that subscribed between that 5-week period took advantage of the pay what you can promotion. Why it wasn't it 100%? It's because that promotion was only applicable to the entry-level plan, which is called l'essentiel, and there were some people who still wanted to sign up for the tout compris, which is the mid layer, or the ultime, which is the top layer with the ads-free experience. And there are even people who wanted to have an annual plan, and our promotion was applicable only to monthly subscribers. The average amount that we got through this promotion was $3.33 by subscribers. Just remember, the minimum amount was $1, but most of the people gave us more than what the minimum that was requested. And 84% of all these new subscribers had never been subscribed before. I'll get back to this, but that was the most important part in our mind. Something that we've discovered along the process. When we began, there wasn't a suggested amount in the box where the user had to choose their amount. And at that moment, the average amount was $3.12 per new subscriber. Then a couple of days later, we added a $5 minimum, not a minimum, a suggested price in the box, and that made increase the average of contributions to $3.39. And 2 weeks after that, we removed the $5 and replaced it by $6. And the average amount that we got after that was $3.50. And one thing which is incredible is that 81% of people who decided to give us $6 did so after we placed $6 as a suggested amount. So I told you that this was the result that we were the most proud of. 84% of these subscribers had never been subscribed before. For us, it came like a rainfall in the desert or an oasis, because we were afraid that we had reached some kind of plateau where it would be hard for us to get new subscribers. And this tells us that there's still room to grow. It's just that repeating the same techniques, trying to speak to the same people over and over again, placed us in a situation where our natural growth rate wasn't able to be sustained. So for us, that's really, really interesting. It means that we still can grow. There's still some people that we will be able to convince to become paying subscribers. Why do we think our promotion worked? First of all, that seems pompous, but trust as an infrastructure. Because we are, I'd say, old age publications that had more than 100 years in print, we are well-known brands in our markets, and the fact that since the last 6 years, we are employee-owned, this adds a layer of trust to our operations. We repeat it, we are real people. You can talk to us, you can come and visit us, you can write to us, we will answer, we'll be there. When we're doing errors, and it happens, we are always there to answer to these errors and to make amends. So that is something which we think is one of the components of our success. Then alignment, not transaction. Pay what you can framing activates community solidarity. It means we're giving more power to the user, we're making him more active in this transaction, and we do feel that this is something that enhances the value or the perceived value of the user. When he has to ask himself, hey, how much am I ready to pay to try out this service? I think that it's more positive than just saying, hey, heavy discount, 90% off for the first 3 months, because this devaluates what we're doing. And then identity-based messaging. In our case, it wasn't that natural because journalists are always shy to speak about themselves. But being employee-owned, this is an advantage that we have to use more and more. And I do think that this is something that made a difference in this whole process. Now the hard part, because we've had plenty of success, but to keep these new subscribers, it's more complicated than trying to keep people who had converted to regular prices. Before, our average churn rate was 1.6% per month, which is really good, well, in my own standards, but if we take a look at benchmarks, it seems that we're amongst good players in terms of churn. Since we implemented this, this promotion last fall, churn rate has increased a little bit. We're close to 2% now, but it's not only in these newly converted subscribers, also long-term subscribers. When we implemented the subscription price increase this April, there's been a small nudge in churn, an augmentation of churn rate, which we were ready to live with. We took that into factor when we made our budget for this year. We knew that more people would unsubscribe, but in the end, we wanted this process to be more profitable for the organization, and so far, it works. So one thing that we did, as I said, we have a 3-month onboarding sequence for all of our new subscribers. We created a dedicated onboarding sequence for these people who converted through the pay what you can offer, because we wanted to make sure that they see the actual value of what they signed for as rapidly as possible. Maybe some things that you can bring back with you if it's of any interest for you to try out this thing. What we think is that price flexibility unlocks first-timers. If the barrier to entry isn't that high, and they have the ability to choose for their own price, it's probably makes some people who are on the fence take action. And once they did it, once they subscribe, that's when the real challenge begins. You have to deliver value to them. Then suggested amounts are a powerful anchor. As I mentioned, when we changed the suggested amount to $6, the number of people who decided to use that price increased a lot. So don't refrain yourselves from suggesting a value for your amount. The sequence matters. You have to build value first to create the habit of consuming and to see, hey, it's pretty fun to use that feature. Then add a layer of friction to force the user to ask himself, do I really need to access that? Yes, no, and then that's when you can go with the price promotion, because that's going to be served as a trigger for the user to take action. And then your identity is your moat, your content, your value proposition, that's your community, that's what people are subscribing to. So you have to use this asset the best way possible. Not only discount, hey, if you pay that amount, you will have access to that content or that perk. Use your personality, your brand identity as a differentiator. That was a hard word to say. Thanks to all of you. Thanks for sticking around through this presentation. A little bit of bragging in the end. For this promotion, we got a INMA prize at the last Global Media Awards at the beginning of May. So wanted to say that it's not because we're a small employee-owned company that we don't have a lot of resources, that we cannot have good ideas. And with the right people, with the right tools, we can build things that can be inspiring. So extremely proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Thanks for your attention. I hope that it was as fun as I had. I'm happy to take questions if you want to, or happy to discuss that after.
Hi. Yes, Mark, just over here, waving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So digging into the difference between this promotion and the previous promotions, if you just take the cohort who signed up to this promotion, can you talk about the 3-month, like the end of promotion retention rate, and whether that was higher than the previous campaigns?
That's a good question. Usually when we do price promotions at the end of the trial period or the discounted period, our retention rate was around 85, 84%. With that promotion, it was around 79, 80%, which is close to what we used to have, a little less efficient as the other ones. And to be frank, when we did other promotions, the revenue we got from the promotions was higher, because if we went out with a $6 promotion for the first 3 months, the end game was that we got more money out of it. But what we felt is that if we came back with that same static promotion, we probably would have less people converting, because it was the same tried and true tactics from before. So we wanted to do something more innovative, and in the end, we're extremely happy with the results we had.
Thanks, Mark. Really great presentation, super encouraging. Just take you back to the start, to that point where you had to decide, what are we going to do, because our current approach was plateauing. Just talk us through how you persuaded your CEO, maybe CFO, other people who are more skeptical, because this is a risk, right? Taking this approach is a risk. How did you manage to convince them that this approach was the right one to take, maybe compared to other options that you had?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I'd say that the biggest challenge is to get internal approval, or to get internal, I don't know how to say it, to make sure that people in your organization actually recognize that this is not a stupid idea, and that it's not putting the advertisement revenue at risk, because it's always that. When I came up, the pay what you can promotion, actually, did not stir a lot of concern internally. It's when I proposed to had a layer of friction in the content access, like putting archived articles behind a hard paywall, putting the columnist content behind hard paywall too. People from advertisement were fearing that we would impair our ad revenue, our ability to deliver impressions. And I made some scientific calculations using Excel to show them, hey, the risk is minimal. And in the end, we probably will make more money out of it. And I was right, because it didn't impair our ability to deliver ad impressions. Number of page view declined, but it wasn't because of that. It's because of what Lisa said earlier. There was already a decline in overall page views. And we felt that if we didn't act as fast as possible to try and get the most out of the actual traffic that we got, we would end up in a situation where we would have a hard time bringing in new people in the ecosystem. So that part, selling it to ads, was tougher, but I'm getting accustomed of doing that, because 3 years ago, when we stopped our print operations, I had to propose the idea of converting the top subscription plan with included print, replace that perk by an ads-free experience, and people were over the top. But again, with the help of Excel, I did some calculations to highlight the fact that to monetize a user, which is a subscriber, to the same extent, no, it's the contrary. To monetize an anonymous user to the same extent of the money we get from a paying subscriber, each user would have to come on our website every day for 3 years, read between 6 and 9 articles per day, and see at least 5 ad impressions per article, and nobody does that. Nobody does that. So that convinced people to do it, and in the end, 2 years after that, I have to say that it was successful. But yes, internal negotiations is the hardest part.
We have time for one more question.
Sorry, I speak a lot.
I think we want to continue to hear you speak, honestly.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Quick question. In regard to the audio articles, of the subscribers visiting the pages with an audio experience, what was the conversion, the audience that elected to actually listen to that experience?
It's still marginal. There's not a lot of people using the audio articles, but those who do, as I mentioned, I think it's the completion rate is 62% of the people who start the audio version actually goes through all of it. We have plans of improving this system and adding a audio playlist in our app, at least, where people could start like the news of the day, and every article would be played in its audio version, one after the other. hey, we still have things to do in the future. We're not there yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.